Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my new shed project, where again we're going to do things just a little bit differently. And why it's going to be a slightly different type of build is because we're going to raise up the shed off the ground using these piers or pillars. So I've already dug 4 holes, which are quite deep. Now I did used to have an old shed which I've taken down as it's basically rotted away, that used to sit here, and it just used to sit on these old slabs. One of the things it did do was actually rot from the bottom, so hence why one of the reasons I actually want to do the base properly and actually try and as well get the shed off the ground. Now when I talk about doing the base properly, I'm not talking about using what might be considered more traditional concrete pad. And one of the reasons for that is there's trees everywhere here, including an apple tree. Also there was a big bay tree just over there, and also as well, can't really forget those trees. So there's roots everywhere, so it makes it very, very difficult to dig down too far and really build an effective base. So these pillars are approximately 10 centimetres square, and the plan is that they're going to go in this hole. Well, this one is anyway. And the hole is approximately, if I can get down to the bottom, just under ½ a metre deep. Well, I don't think that's too bad a start, but I do think that this pier just needs to move slightly further back in the hole, and just to level it up as well with the end of this path. So even though that's now flattened out a little bit more, I'm actually going to just use some gravel in the hole just to help level it even further. Okay, so I think things have got a little bit worse. So what we need to do is raise the one behind us just up a little bit, and hopefully we'll get that level. Well, that's looking an awful lot better, isn't it? However, it's not just about their height above the ground and whether it's level with the other piers, it's also about its position in the hole and if it's slanted or tilted one way or another. So that's where we use this little fence tool to help us and see how level it is. So actually, this one's looking quite level. I think you could probably do with just going back, tilting forward a little bit. Okay, so that's looking much better, but I think the trick's going to be is keeping that in position. So if the piers are now level and also as well they're not tilted, what about their positioning in the hole itself, and that relative to the path that leads up to it? So I'm just using this bit of wood just to try and help me identify how straight that is or not. And that's all well and good, but how do we stop these moving when we're actually trying to refill the holes and secure these in position? Well, I'm hoping to use some wood and some clamps. So making progress now, but not especially quickly. I've had to dig out these holes a little bit more just to pull these piers a little bit closer, because the width of the new shed's floor isn't quite 6 foot. Also as well, I've pulled these back and just re-leveled them again just to make sure everything's good. So I think really the next thing to do is just try and clear this great big mud pile, because now I'm getting in my own way and I need to basically square these up and measure them just to make sure they're all level and true relative to each other. So I've got all the pillars now secured in place, but I can tell just by looking at it, something's not right. I don't think it's quite square. So let's just do a little bit of measuring and see what we can see. Now we need this under 70 inches, just so it fits the floor. Okay, so that is 70 inches, so I can't even say it, 70 inches. What about the other one? Okay, so we're 2.5 inches odd out of alignment. So I think what we're going to have to do is just move this pillar back slightly. So even with moving that just slightly, we're still around an inch and a bit, inch and a half shy, and we're pretty much at the back of this hole. And I'm just going to remind myself of the size of the floor that we need to accommodate. And yeah, it is 70.5, isn't it? So there's no way I can make that fit when I include the widths of the frame that is going to sit on the pillars. So it's going to have to be some more digging, unfortunately. So after all that, I think we're now looking good to go. So this is now looking really good, and that's great, but I'm kind of in my own way, not just with all these bolts and clamps that's holding the pillars in place, but obviously with that pile of mud in the middle. So it's really difficult to mix up some concrete to actually get these bedded into the ground. So what I'm going to do, just to help myself and cheat a little bit, is just use a little bit of postcrete just to get them bedded in, and then I'm going to top off with a concrete mix later. So even though this base build was only for a light duty shed, the use of postcrete isn't really meant for structural applications, and I guess really the clue is in the title, for posts. So I was really very careful about how much I used, and in the end, for all 4 piers, I only used just over a bag. With the postcrete then left to dry overnight, it was then time to remove all of the clamps and the wood and just hope that the piers didn't move at all, which fortunately they didn't. And with that stage successfully completed, now on to the concrete mixing, using my handy little plastic tub to measure out the amounts, of which in this case was a 1:4 mix of cement and ballast. And as you might expect with any groundworks, none of this was a quick job, and to give you some idea, I used 3 of these blue tubs, approximately 2/3 full of concrete mix per pier. And also, as well as you can see, I put back in some of the stones I've taken out of the ground as well. Well, looks like I've actually got some help, although I'm not entirely sure how much help he's going to be, bless him. With the concrete then poured for all of the piers, left to set over several days, and then just topped off to level off the ground with the soil that I had available, as well as just clearing the rest out, it was then time to start on making the frame and mocking up. Come on down, Bo. Good boy. So we're well and truly out of the ground now, as you can see, and things are definitely shaping up, but they're not quite where they need to be. Now, over here, things are definitely square. However, if we move over this way, you can see it's more like a rhombus. I may be overselling that slightly. Now, when I've done all of my measurements here, they're all pretty much where I need them to be, apart from on the diagonal, which I can't show you right now as I've got a dog in the way. However, from this corner to this corner, it's 300 centimetres. However, from that corner to this corner, it's 296. And I think from looking at it, this piece of wood here is the only thing that I can see that could be causing this. It just seems to be bending out slightly. So I'm going to try and spin it and see if that helps us. So with that now measured up and everything looking good, albeit by a couple of mils, we're now ready to mark up and start cutting and building the rest of this frame. So unfortunately this line isn't quite in the right place, as we did place one timber on top of the other, so we do need to reduce where we're going to cut by its width, which is 4.5 centimetres. So that is now the cut line. Mustn't forget, in all the excitement, to protect the freshly cut ends of the wood. I was really quite fortunate to have the help from my son throughout quite a few parts of this project, especially at times like this where it's necessary for you to drill or screw something in. It really helps just to have that extra pair of hands just to hold things in the right place. I found to get this frame together it really was necessary for me to drill pilot holes first, as well as use a bit of Vaseline, which just helped the screws going much more easily. So we've got the fundamental base of the shed made, or at least its outer limits, and now we've got to add in additional support. Now, because of the way that the supports on the base of the shed floor actually run, I need to actually run another piece of timber horizontally across this. I was actually going to run them in this direction, which I think would offer more, but I don't really have a choice, because otherwise the floor of the shed is going to have nothing to sit on. Now, as the size of this is just over 180 centimetres, to put this in the middle, I'm going to go to 88 centimetres because these are 4.5 centimetre timbers. With the frame now done, we're on to the last step, and that is to actually attach it to the pillars. However, one small challenge I've just noticed in terms of the bolts that I've bought, just slightly too big for the hole on the pillars. So I'm going to have to drill them out so we can get this fitted. Now I've had to lift the frame up because otherwise I can't actually access it. Well, that works. Now with all those now drilled, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a bit of damp proof course that I've cut just to fit in, if I can actually get it to fit, between the wood and the pillar. Really just want to make sure that no damp, as much as possible, can get in to this wood. And I've also swapped drills just for this part to drill the wood, because the other drill just couldn't fit in. So with that now drilled, I still though can't quite get these bolts to go in on their own. So I think they're going to need a little bit of persuasion. Or at least this one is. So after days and days of hard work and battling through some rather dodgy UK weather, this is it, and I have to admit, I'm really quite pleased, but let's just reserve judgment until the shed is sitting securely on top of it. Well, that's the base basically done, and now onto the shed build itself, which I'll save for another video. I'll be interested to know what your thoughts are, so please get in the comments below, and I'll see you again soon for another video.